Okay, Nandi. My biggest battle I have is keeping my shutter speed up shooting sports, resulting in sometimes soft and out of focus images. I shoot in aperture mode, auto ISO, wide open, and that simply means the lowest aperture f-stop number. And for her case, it's an f4, a 300 millimeter Nikkor lens. Okay, so sports photography is not easy. It's really challenging because depending on the sport, things are moving incredibly fast. So, Nandi, it's what you're doing. I'm just rereading here. What you're doing is all good, and it's true that I often tell people when you're doing sports, if they're just starting out, to use aperture priority, auto ISO, and wide open, meaning your lowest f-stop number possible. However, if this is still not working out for you, I'm going to get you to advance to switching to shutter priority and try 1/1000th of a second. And I don't know what sport you're photographing, to be honest. So, but whenever you're dealing with shutter priority, it's a little bit of a challenge because if you're in a really dark environment and your highest ISO is still not enough, you're going to get a darker picture. So that's why what you're doing now is what I advise. If it's not working, then switch to shutter priority and keep experimenting with a faster and faster shutter speed, and keep doing it until you freeze the subject. Like, are you photographing basketball players? Well, just try to use a tripod or a monopod and keep making a faster and faster shutter speed. But 1/1000 should be enough. If it isn't, go 1/2000. Make sure that your ISO is jacked up because you may be photographing inside an auditorium. I don't know. Okay, Sudhir. It's often said that prime lenses are the best and make you a better photographer. My experience has been the opposite. I find it difficult to compose and frame my shots, especially during night street photography. One needs enough experience to be able to handle such situations, since zooming by legs only result in changing the distance, not the perspective. Your thoughts for my enlightenment, please. Well, I'm happy to help. I would say, Sudhir, even though I'm a great advocate of prime lenses for street photography, I would rather you get the shot than follow my advice. Okay, so if you feel most comfortable with zoom lensing, using a zoom lens, then please continue to do so. The only thing I would suggest, if you feel that your pictures are a little bit too noisy or too much grain, it may be because zoom lenses have a little bit of a harder time photographing in dark environments than their prime lens non-zooming brethren. And that's because prime lenses or non-zooming lenses usually have the ability to collect more light. They have a lower f-stop number, also known as wide open, bigger aperture opening. And that allows for more light to come in. So when you're photographing at night, especially street photography, and you don't use a tripod, having a prime lens is actually beneficial because you can actually in turn have a faster shutter speed. Okay? Karen. A while ago, I made a couple of in-camera time-lapse videos. How do I slow them down? First of all, I just want to say I don't know if you are talking about a time-lapse made by your iPhone or Android, or if you're referring to a DSLR or a mirrorless. So if you are referring to a DSLR or mirrorless, in fact, let's just go with any time-lapse. You're going to need to use an editing software to speed up or slow down that clip. I'm not sure if you use Android or iPhone or if you're using PC or Mac, so it's a little bit hard for me to tell you an exact app to use. For example, I use Adobe Premiere Pro, and Premiere Pro allows me to adjust the speed of my time lapses, and I do that all the time because as a commercial photographer and videographer, I'm often doing time lapses for clients. So if I want to speed up, I go to 200%, 300%, 400%. If I want to slow it down, I go to 50% or something like that. So you just need to find an editing software that will allow for that time adjustment or its duration adjustment. Judy, also coming on my next photo workshop. I'm really excited about that, Judy. I rarely have my photos printed because the quality of the prints never comes even close to my expectations, whether it be photos taken on my Canon or my iPhone XS. They always seem to be very poor replicas of what I see on my iPad Pro when I edit them. Do you have your photos printed? If so, what's your process and what do you suggest for me? Great question. So Judy, if I'm printing out for professional purposes, I use a local print master. However, if it's only for testing or sampling or sending to friends and family, and it's not an art piece, then any place will do, and it doesn't matter as long as they have a policy of a free adjustment based on your desire. For example, there's no problem with you taking your iPad in to the store. When you come to look at it, say, well, this doesn't look good. You can show it to the person behind the counter and say, here is the photo that I edited on my iPad, and this picture doesn't even come close. Well, they will reprint it, or hopefully they will, based on seeing your iPad. Okay, so make sure that the policy of the store is that you can bring it back for a reprint. And I believe that Costco allows that, and probably most of them do.